Before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button, then turn that notification button on right now.
Triple H has done a fantastic job in NXT. When he took responsibility for WWE's developmental brand, he really changed the way things were done. The content they would put out would usually be better than the content put out by the main roster, with the 1-hour television show helping them and keeping their matches fresh. Most of the TakeOver pay-per-view events end up being received better than the WWE pay-per-views, their wrestling and stories make more sense than the ones on the main roster, and the quality of matches are often better as well, with the superstars having fewer restrictions placed on what they can do. The size of the crowds in NXT are often smaller and made up of more hardcore fans, allowing wrestlers to really connect with them and work on developing their characters. The way NXT was developed, it has become a third brand after Raw and SmackDown Live, and may end up being another show which competes with the other two main roster shows, possibly at an equal footing. With NXT improving more and more, WWE might consider sending main roster wrestlers back down to NXT. There they can work on improving their characters and possibly building themselves up to better personalities if they are stuck doing nothing on the main roster. More senior wrestlers could also help guide the younger competitors and prepare them for the life on the main roster. My name is John, and in this list, we will talk about 10 tag teams or wrestlers who might do better in NXT rather than the main roster. The Revival was a big deal when they came up to the main roster. Everyone looked at them to be the next big thing when they were brought up to Raw, but it didn't work out for them like that. They suffered an injury immediately upon their arrival, and then as soon as they recovered from the first, they suffered another one. Their injury problems kept them out of the limelight for the longest time and did not allow them to take advantage of the momentum they had when they first arrived on the main roster. When they finally returned from their injury problems, it was to a crowd who had forgotten about them, and a creative team who had nothing for them. They went on to lose quite a few critical matches, something that does not do anyone who is making the first impression any good. Other than the hardcore NXT fan base, not too many people knew about them, and thus the casual fans really stopped caring. Now, while they've picked up a few victories since then, they have not really gotten any momentum, nor are they a part of a storyline. Going back to NXT would do them good, and they could come back later with a better form after gathering themselves and regaining the momentum they had lost. If one person has to be named who came up to the main roster too fast, it's Apollo Crews. While he's gotten better and his role in Titus Worldwide gives him something to do, there is room for improvement in the character of Apollo Crews. While he is very athletic, he has not seemed at all capable of having a personality of anything other than smiling at the camera. His character lacks any motive, and the fans know nothing about him despite being on the main roster for more than 2 years. No one knows about why he wants to fight, what motivates him, what his character is based on, and at this point it seems like they won't care. A good way to give him a personality would be to send him back to NXT where he could develop his character and become something more than a good smiling athletic wrestler. Zack Ryder just cannot catch a break. He has never been able to have a consistent main roster run in the company despite being one of the most popular baby faces in the WWE. When no one was giving him a chance early on in his career, he made himself popular with the fans by using his YouTube channel. Soon enough, he had gathered a loyal fan following, and the fans wanted to see him, and WWE ended up being forced to give him a push that they did not want to. He became the United States Champion only to be humiliated by WWE, and he soon lost it. His on-screen girlfriend also cheated on him with John Cena. Finally, in his already injured state, he was thrown off the stage in a wheelchair and onto the floor. After this, for the longest time, he faded into the background and a lot of people forgot about him. He finally had another great moment in the 2016 WrestleMania ladder match where he was able to win the Intercontinental title, which he then lost the very next day. His tag team with Mojo Rawley fell through, and the feud between the two was not booked properly by WWE either. As a result, he has again gone off television programming. Going into NXT would help him to have more time on television, and also would be great for him to help younger and more inexperienced wrestlers gain credibility and have a foothold in the company. When Dana Brooke was called up to the main roster, it was very obvious that the call had come too early. She was anything except a complete wrestler at that point and had been attached to Charlotte, cementing her status as a lackey. The only thing she had going for her was the bodybuilding ability she possessed, and which allowed her to show off her talent in the middle of the ring. Unfortunately for her, that was all she could do. After getting separated from Charlotte, she never took off and could not hold her own as a singles competitor. As opposed to sending her back to NXT, WWE has decided to keep her on the main roster, where she has rarely appeared in any televised matches, and she has a long way to go before she can become anything approaching a credible competitor. The best thing for her right now would be to go back to NXT, where she could train and develop her in-ring skills. Though they were the first ever SmackDown Tag Team Champions, their stars have since faded. The duo of Slater and Ryhno are an exciting and entertaining tag team, always fetching a few laughs when they were on television. On the main roster, however, there does not appear to be any place for them. They don't get regular matches, nor do they have any spectacular skills. It can even be said that Heath Slater is the only remaining member of the former three-man band who is yet to make his own mark. Ryhno is old now, and while he may be a great entertainer, perhaps it would be better if he used his talents to train the youngsters of NXT. Heath would also benefit from a period in NXT and perhaps develop and change their character gimmick before making it back onto the main roster. Aiden English has somehow become a hot star in the main roster. His singing gimmick added a new layer to Rusev's character and caused his popularity to shoot far out of control. Rusev is currently one of the fan-favorite wrestlers and his popularity seems undimmed. However, it looks like WWE might be splitting up Aiden from him and pairing him with his real-life wife, Lana, again. Aiden English is an incredible talent, and after his inevitable feud with Rusev, might be the perfect person to send back down to NXT to find a potential partner or just groom his in-ring skills so that he may get on television more often. In his youth, Shelton Benjamin was possibly one of the most promising athletes, with the exception of Brock Lesnar. His feud with Evolution and then later Shawn Michaels remains fresh in the memory of anyone who saw him. However, when it comes to modern WWE TV, his return has not gone as planned. It was delayed in the very beginning as he suffered an injury weeks before his debut. And when he finally did come back, it was to be attached to Chad Gable. The duo was a promising tag team, but their push didn't work out at all. Now with Gable over on Raw and Shelton alone, he has the opportunity to break out but seems to have only collected a long string of losses instead. A trip down to NXT would rejuvenate his character and allow him to use all of his potentials in the best way in front of a hardcore fan base. Another man whose debut did not work out for him was Mike Kanellis. He came back with his wife and former WWE star Maria and was given a weak gimmick of the power of love. They still tried to work with it and did what they could, but that gimmick was one that was simply not meant to be. Even though the audience was already getting tired of them, they had continued with the gimmick. On top of that, Maria got pregnant, and then Mike revealed that he had a problem with drugs. He took time off to recover from his addiction, and while this was inspiring, it meant that WWE couldn't put him on television for a long time. Since then, Mike has recovered, much to his credit. It might be the perfect thing for him to start off slow, and the less hectic schedule of NXT might just be the best way for him to get back on his feet. Bray Wyatt is a star in WWE who at one point looked to have main event potential. He even won the WWE title back in 2017, but that reign only lasted a month. The Wyatt family was one of the most dreaded stables to debut almost at the same time as The Shield and gained their own cult following extremely fast. The family lost momentum due to being booked with continuous losses, and Wyatt became the creepy man to give unintelligible promos on a regular basis. His feud with Matt Hardy had potential, and though it was not a spectacular success, was better than anything else he had done for a long time. He then teamed up with Matt and became the tag team champion. Although now they have lost the titles, might continue to feud for them for a while. Inevitably, the two will split, and after a feud, Wyatt might not be able to go back to his old self. Bray might not be the best star right now, but with his innate charisma, he has a lot of potential. Sending him down to NXT might do him good, and he could possibly take more stars under his wing and possibly even build up another stable. Sheamus is one of the most experienced and talented wrestlers on the main roster at the moment. His breakthrough came after his debut, and his career has been littered with considerable success. Teaming up with Cesaro now, Sheamus is still an entertaining star. Unfortunately for him, he has an injury which makes it difficult for him to take bumps. Being 40 years old now, he should not put his already injured body through much more torture, and resting up may do him some good. After a rest, he could act as a gateway senior wrestler in NXT, with less pressure on him, and possibly also act as an instructor during his time there. And these are 10 main roster wrestlers that should be sent back to NXT. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching Wrestling Hub, and I'll see you later with more wrestling videos.